And welcome back once again. My name is Rusty, and this is Scream With Me, where I talk about my favorite horror movies. I also have a Rock With Me series where I talk about my favorite music. I'm doing a top 10 Nightwish songs right now. My top 10, sorry. My top 10 Nightwish songs. Everybody's is going to be different. But welcome back to my channel where we are going to continue our journey down the rabbit hole with Atlas as we discuss and celebrate the Resident Evil franchise in expectation, celebration, and anticipation of the new Resident Evil movie coming out in November, which I can't wait for that ride because I damn sure loved this one. So I'm very interested to see where they're going to take it and what this next ride is going to be, and I hope it lasts for 6 movies too. Or at least something decent. Give me 4. I guess I'd take a trilogy, but let's just hope it does well. But we are going to continue now with Resident Evil Extinction. This further transforms the series into a more action-oriented survival horror, like the video game. But I don't really know what people wanted. I'm fine with it. I like it just fine. But yes, Resident Evil Extinction was released in 2007, and it was directed by Russell Mulcahy, written once again by Paul W.S. Anderson, starring Milla Jovovich, Ali Larter, and Oded Fehr. So, story time. So let's go through this one. Now, interestingly enough, sort of like Apocalypse, this movie opens up with flashbacks to the OG, at least what we think are flashbacks to the OG. It looks like flashbacks. And you see Alice wake up, and you're kind of wondering, wait, this is like the exact same scene. It starts off in the bathtub like the OG, and then moves through the hive and everything just like the OG did. Only we realize, Alice gets killed. She continues on past where the OG left off. And that's when I started wondering, what is this? Because she escapes through the roof in the hallway, where the cube light lasers. And that's when things change up and you realize that, you're not in Kansas anymore, that this must not be a flashback, and or they're showing you something further. Only she dies. And it's all kind of revealed to you that this was a clone, and that this clone was one of many, because they take her outside and they dump her in a ditch with lots of others. And we have Dr. Isaacs again. He is the asshole in this movie. We've always got to have one, and he is the bad guy in this movie. So they're in some underground, well, it's another hive. It's actually almost constructed the same way. And it's out in the desert, or what has become a desert. And yeah, so we begin to then learn, as we are introduced to the real Alice on her own. You wonder, where is everybody? So you're introduced to Alice on her own, and it's all very Mad Max. I don't know if anybody else thought that, but this movie was the atmosphere and cinematography was very Mad Max. I actually liked that a lot. But her outfit is really cool in this one. Her, she's on her bike. It's very Mad Maxy, and we're introduced to her, and she's alone, traveling alone. And you start to see little visions that she has, and through the things that you are noticing from her, you realize that she is trying to get somewhere. She's on her way somewhere, and we find out that that is she has heard rumors that there is a facility in the north, specifically the north of Alaska, where there is supposedly virus free. So I think that that's what's in her head. That's her goal. That's what she's trying to accomplish. We're then introduced to basically a traveling caravan city. A caravan, buses and military vehicles, and it's got, we're introduced to the characters in this movie. And the returning characters are, of course, Carlos is back, so we're kind of like, it was cool to see him. And LJ was back, and so that was cool, to get to see him. And we're introduced to our new assistant hero, I guess, which would be Claire. So we're introduced to Claire, and we're introduced to her little mate, Kmart, and we're introduced to Betty, who is real cool, and Mikey. Mikey's my crush in this movie. So, of course, that means he's going to die sometime or another in it. That's just the law of movies where I'm concerned. So, after we're introduced to this caravan and the way that they're living, which is going from town to town, trying to avoid the zombie mobs and keep supplied. They don't really have a purpose though, other than survival, and they've got it all rigged up very nicely. But we don't really see any kind of overall purpose, unlike Alice, who seems to have an end goal. They're just trying to survive and protect. Claire is trying to protect her city, her little traveling caravan of survivors. So we kind of then move back to Dr. Isaac, where we see that the Umbrella Corporation has multiple hives all over the planet, where we also learn that the T virus has escaped and it has devastated the planet, caused severe climate change, drought, and of course a world full of zombies. So the virus is on the loose, and is this where LJ gets bit? When we come back to the caravan, we're introduced to uh, the black crows, the zombie crows, and I thought they were so cool. And I don't know if anybody else liked that idea of the infected crows, but the reason that I liked it so much was because some animals have to be affected. You can't have it just be humans. I know the T virus was created to be a human-based virus, but um, I kind of like that they at least showed that some animal was subject to its wrath. They didn't really in this movie. I mean, we saw the dogs, but to see something other than the dogs, I mean, we didn't see any zombie cats, did we? We didn't see any zombie cats. So as we're seeing all these crows around, meanwhile, Alice seems to be getting closer to this group because she runs into what I refer to as a Hills Have Eyes or Texas Chainsaw family. She gets tricked into going to a radio station where they, you know, kidnap her, and it was so. I don't know if it was meant to be a nod to those movies, the Crazy Family movies, Wrong Turn, Texas Chainsaw, and movies like that, Hills Have Eyes. But we run across the crazy Texas Chainsaw family. Um, they're survivors, though they're not, but they seem to trick people. I don't know if they're eating them. Are they cannibals? I don't remember them. I don't remember it showing them being cannibals like Wrong Turn or anything. So I don't know. Maybe they're just assholes. They get people to rape and stuff. I don't know, but they trick people into showing up at the radio station by putting out a fake distress call, and then they do whatever they want to do. What they wanted to do to her was, assault her. Um, and who knows what else. They didn't get a chance, of course, though, because she ends up killing one of them, and we have the big survival scenes. Um, like I said, this movie is even further into the action. It further pumps up the action aspects of this franchise. So we now, have dealt with the family. She's got away. We've kind of learned her goal is to get to Alaska, and we've been introduced to the um, traveling caravan of survivors, whom are wake up one day to like thousands of infected crows, which made for some really cool, spectacular scenes. I really liked the infected crows, and this is how, I didn't like some of the things that happened. Like we lost Betty, and several of their members were killed by these crows. It was really good action scenes. I really hated seeing the bus driver, don't know his name, and Betty, get killed. But they did. I mean, we're going to lose people. You know what I'm saying? It's a horror movie. We're going to lose people along the way. But I hated seeing Betty get killed. She was cool. And Carlos is almost got it, him and his kid. They almost get it, but we are introduced full force now to what we suspected at the end of the last movie, and that is that Alice comes up and saves them with the use of psionics. She stops the fire. This guy is like flame throwing, trying to kill the birds, and she stops it with her mind and then blows it back to all of the birds and saves Carlos's life. And that's how she's introduced to and joins this caravan. Now, yeah, my notes say Betty was killed, Alice saves, yeah, so keeping straight here. So, it turns out, though, that now we have an I guess the White Queen instead of the Red Queen, and they are picking up whenever Alice engages her psionic abilities. The satellites pick it up, and the White Queen is what I call her anyway. The White Queen has now notified that creep Dr. Isaacs that there is activity outside of the clones. Clones have a little bit, but outside of the, you know, facility, there was psionic activity. Now they think that she's either dead or whatever, because they've been looking for her for years, but she has learned how to avoid detection. So once he finds that out, he starts trying to locate her. And she has joined this caravan, and they have decided to take on her goal. After all, they didn't have one themselves. So she told them about Alaska, and they've all agreed to have this as their goal, but they're going to have to go somewhere to get supplies. Now, because they chose Vegas, and they had said earlier that they had about 100 miles worth of gas, you then know that they have to be within 100 miles of Vegas. So they got a long way to go to get to Alaska if they're going to do it in this caravan. So they choose Vegas to go to try to get it. Well, Dr. Isaacs is zoning in on her, and they get to Vegas, where we then lose some other people. I can't think of his name, but there's a cool guy, the one that wears the cowboy hat all the time, and he was real cool. He goes up the Eiffel Tower exhibit and is watching, and everything seems fine at first, but of course Isaacs has located her, and they have actually went against the Umbrella Corps' um, orders not to go after her. He really wants her, so he has actually tracked her down and went AWOL against corporate orders and has tracked them to Las Vegas. So he's actually there on top of one of the buildings, and um, he actually planted a bunch of infected in a boxcar. He was there waiting for them. He knew where they were headed. So when that causes this huge, giant action sequence in which we lose several other members, including, like I said, the cool guy in the cowboy hat, and of course, my Mickey. My Mickey. They fucking ate my Mickey. That made me very sad. Fuck that writer. So there they are, trying to resupply in Vegas. A whole bunch more shit goes down. We lose a lot more people, and she does realize that they're trying to enact her little abilities, Project Alice. So they're trying to enact her abilities, and she locates them. She locates them on top of the building and goes after them. She manages to kill them all, except the asshole, Isaacs. He gets away, but right before he does, he gets attacked and bit, by an infected, which I thought that was great. He deserved that, but it didn't lead to any good and turned out to be not a good thing. But my new Freddy shirt. Little side note there. So he manages to escape, and he goes back where he is like sort of ostracized to his office, and he's reprimanded and all of this kind of stuff. And boy, because he has made the virus so strong, the antivirus is like really, he's just been like pumping so much antivirus into him, because he had made the virus that was in those ones, he had like actually upped their aggression. And so and he got bit by one of his own that he had planted for them in Vegas. So he's got a really nasty strain of the virus, a really powerful one, and he's been jacking himself with that antivirus, which is starting to cause him to mutate, and he does. And that was a cool scene because one of the organizers tries to, his boss basically tries to execute him, in which he like does some Squidward shit, like octopus kind of stuff, and takes his eyes and throat out, with his little things, and so he's now become a monster as well. And Carlos had gotten bit too, and that was very upsetting because it's not like Alice is carrying around any Alice isn't carrying around any antivirus, so there's nothing that she can do about it. So he then decides to sacrifice himself to get them into the facility, because she has tracked them back to the facility, and she wants to stop this. So Carlos, and that's a pretty cool scene, when he loads up a truck with dynamite and he's going to bust down the gates. He doesn't quite make it to the gates though, but he makes it to thousands and thousands of zombies that are surrounding the facility, being kept out by the perimeter. And it's a great scene when he's, he just wants to smoke so bad before he goes, and he finds where LJ had hit a joint in the visor, so he was like, going to get to do that. So he lights up the dynamite and the doobie at the same time, and it all goes sideways. He blows the whole mess up, which allows Alice and Claire and all of them, the few survivors that were left, because there was not many left. What, 12? Their group, which had been dropped down to like 30, was now like 12. Um, so there was a lot of kids, a lot of people that died, and so they get in to the facility. They steal the helicopter. That's what they wanted, was the helicopter. So she puts them all on the helicopter and they take off, except for her. She's going to remain. And which, if you've watched this franchise, you know what comes next. But so she's going to remain. She goes in there and into the facility, finds out that it's basically another hive, and she goes down into it, where she meets the White Queen. Now it turns out that, unlike the Red Queen, this one is, she even tells her up front, she's like, yeah, I've met you before, I've met your sister. And she was like, she was a psychotic bitch or something like that. And the White Queen, tells her that, well, she was just trying to protect everybody. But, you can tell pretty quickly that the White Queen isn't bad like the Red Queen was. She actually tells her what's going on, and she informs her that in her blood, because it had mutated and joined with the T virus, that it is her blood that could actually cure, this problem. So she tells her there that this facility is capable of doing that, but there was one problem, and that was, she informs her about Dr. Isaac down in the lower levels, and you're going to have to get through him to do it. So, she goes down there, and there's the big boss level fight between, her and Dr. Isaacs. Now, while she's there, she meets one of her clones, and she thinks the clone dies in her arms, and it all kind of rushes to her, what's going on. She manages to trick Dr. Isaacs into that hallway, the dreaded cube hallway with the lasers, and she actually did it, kamikaze. And that is that she fully intended to die right there, because she had to stop this. But once Dr. Isaac gets cubed by the lasers, it stops right at Alice's face, and we find out that the White Queen had stopped it. So she was good, obviously. She had let well, the White Queen had allowed the clone to cut off the machine, because the White Queen, like I said, the White Queen had been like the Red Queen. She could have killed the clone. She could have made sure that they were both dead, but she didn't. Instead, she allowed the clone to stay alive, and that was a surprise, because you didn't know that the clone was still alive. You thought that she had died earlier. So the clone saves her. The the White Queen has explained everything to her, and Alice gets on the phone, or the computer. Because Dr. Isaac and the Hive, they're all connected. So all she had to do was go to the computer and open it up, and she saw them having a board meeting. And so they're talking about how they're going to consider that hive a loss. They're going to switch all of the information to another hive and continue the experiments to try to cure this thing. And that's when Alice kind of does a holographic bust in to the board meeting, and informs them that they're not going to have to worry about that, because she is on her way. She tells them that she's coming, and that she's bringing a few friends with her. And she says this, and you see her clone standing next to her. But then you see after she gets through and tells them that she's on her way with a few friends, she gets, she turns and looks out over this facility, and you see hundreds and hundreds of clone bubbles with clones of her in them. So you kind of know that that's what she means by she's coming with some friends, which is going to lead us to the next movie or something, because it's at that point that the credits begin to roll. On Resident Evil Extinction, the third movie in the franchise, released in 2007. Now, as I said, I've heard complaints, from people saying that they didn't like the direction it went in, that it was too much action, that it wasn't as much horror, and I don't know, I just don't agree with that, which is our right, and I am perfectly fine with that. I love this movie. I love the first two. The first two are 9.5 to me, and this one's like an 8.5 to me. So I mean, it drops down just a little bit, but believe me, there's not a lot of movies get 8, 9, and 10 from me. So I try to keep the 8, 9, and 10 for high end on my list. And so this is still very high end, to me, and way above mediocre. So I have no problem with this movie. I actually love this movie. I love my favorite part of the crows, and granted that was only a small little 15-minute scene, but it was certainly really cool to me. I really liked it. So I like this movie. I like the atmosphere. I like the cinematography. I didn't have any problem with anyone. Of course, there was lots of disappointments. LJ getting bitten and turning into a zombie when we least expected it. Mickey dying. The absence of Jill Valentine was very, what the fuck, It's like, well, she's just not there. She's just not in this movie. No mention of her, I don't think. Do you remember any mention of her? I don't remember any mention of her or anything. Instead, our secondary was Claire. So that was kind of like well, we're just not including Jill in this one, and there was no explanation to it. So it's little things like that that I think a lot of people, or it's like what I've heard people talk about, little things that are just off. Like, where's Jill? And little pieces like that kind of just are excused. So I understand that, but it doesn't make me dislike the movie just because I have a few questions or it didn't answer every single thing. You know what I mean? I'm not a critic. And people know what I think about critics. I think that critics, when a person calls themselves a critic, it's almost like they changed something in the way they think. They become like these snooty individuals that think that they know things and above everyone else. They suddenly become a critic. I am a movie critic. I am a film critic. And I don't really know what to think about that, because all I see what happens to you when you do that is that you lose the ability to let go. This movie is exactly what this movie's supposed to be. I don't have any, this is not Citizen Kane, and it is not Gone with the Wind, and it is not, Forrest Gump, or something like that. It's not The Shawshank Redemption. And there are people that hate those movies. Those movies I just mentioned, there are people that don't give a flying fig about those movies. So, but for some reason, critics, it's like they judge everything, and they don't have the ability to just have fun with a movie. When I sit back and watch a movie, I judge the movie entirely on that movie and that movie alone. I'm not putting it up against this, that, and the other. There are movies I hate. There are movies that I love. There are movies I think that were filmed well and that I think were filmed, but it's all personal perspective. I'm not a film critic. I am a film fan. And whether that's good or bad opinions of a film, I am a film fan and I give my opinion based on me, my personal likes and dislikes, what I'm looking for in a movie, and that could be something entirely different. There's been lots of movies that I've disliked and told people why I disliked them, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even notice that," or, "Well, why?" You know, I didn't notice that, or that doesn't seem like a reason that it would bother me, but it was a reason that it bothered me, and it's my opinion on that movie. So I think that critics lose the ability, from what I see, to do that. They lose the ability to respect other people's opinions instead of calling them. I mean, if you don't like Halloween Kills, for instance, if you didn't like that movie, that is fine. I loved it. If you didn't like it, that's cool. Don't call me stupid, though, or lower than, or less than a film buff than you, because how could I like it? I must not be as good of a film critic as you if I couldn't understand that that was not good. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I loved it. I loved everything. I loved Halloween Kills. I loved the characters. I loved the story. What little was there, I didn't expect there to be. It's the middle of a trilogy, and it's called Halloween Kills, for God's sakes. It's not Halloween tells a story. It's not. It's not. Halloween does Citizen Kane. It's Halloween Kills, for God's sakes. I expected it to be exactly what it was, and I loved it for exactly what it was. And but yeah, you know, I see people liking movies that are so retarded to me. I'm just like, that is the stupidest fucking movie I've ever seen in my life. What the fuck? But I don't look at them and say, you are an idiot, or you are not a good film watcher, that you obviously are lowbrow or something. So yeah, for some reason though, fans are able to do that. Critics are not able to do that for some reason. They're just like, that movie sucked and you suck too for daring to like it. So yeah, there's like this line between film fans, cinemaphiles, and critics, and I don't really understand where that comes from, but I'm glad that I'm not. Don't ever call me a film critic, because I'm not. I'm a film fan, I'm a cinemaphile, and I've got 1,500 movies laying around here that I bought to prove it. And they wouldn't be in my collection if I didn't like it, so obviously I have a wide range of loves. But thank you for tuning in and listening to another tangent. I would love to hear your opinion of this movie, good or bad. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you didn't, tell me why. But I love this movie. It's a 8 out of 10. Actually, I feel like I could put a .5. International Movie Database is just, I don't like a 5 scale, I like a 10 scale, but I actually like a 10-point scale. 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5. That's the way I wish it was, but hey, at least 10 is better than 5. But to me, this is like a 8.5, but I gave it an 8 on International Movie Database because they don't have points. So, yeah. The next one might be a little lower, but like I said, I still love them. So, thank you for joining me. Scream with me. We'll be back with the next movie next time when I sit down and watch them. I always watch a movie like 30 minutes. I watched these two movies earlier tonight. Within an hour, I was filming the Apocalypse review. So I try to watch them to have everything fresh, to have my notes fresh, all the little things that thrilled me, the people that thrilled me, the little nuances that make a movie a movie is the little things, the little nuances. And rather than just tell the story without any of the little things that I noticed, the little things that meant something to me, anybody can tell the synopsis of the. You can go to Wikipedia and read the plot, and it'll tell you everything that happened. So I like hearing people's personal interpretations and likes and dislikes and the little things that made them love it. So that was my rant and roll on Resident Evil Extinction. We'll be back with the next one next time. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you later. Love you, miss you, bye, and always stay scary and keep screaming when appropriate.